The twin suns of Zethera hung low in the violet sky, casting long, shimmering shadows across the alien capital of Vorin Prime. Towering spires of polished crystal reflected their golden light, and hovering vehicles glided silently between the buildings. The city buzzed with energy, a mixture of alien music, chatter, and the hum of advanced technology. At the heart of the city stood Queen Lyra's palace, a vast structure of shimmering white and silver, adorned with flowing banners and glowing symbols of the Zitheran royal family. It was here that the first human ambassador to Zithera, Captain Ethan Hayes, had arrived. Ethan was not a soldier in the traditional sense. He was trained in diplomacy, intelligence, and survival, but his physique, honed by years of rigorous earth training, gave him an edge in ways most humans did not understand. Today he walked beside Queen Lyra as she led him through the grand halls of her palace. Lyra's eyes were sharp, her posture regal, her every movement commanding attention. Despite her elegance, there was a subtle undercurrent of curiosity, and perhaps even skepticism toward Ethan. Humans, she had heard, were fragile creatures, weak compared to Zitherans. Yet here he was, walking beside her as her husband, as part of a union that was meant to bring peace between their species. Ethan noted her gaze but said nothing. He had learned long ago that patience often spoke louder than words. The palace was filled with Zitherans, all observing him, whispering quietly to one another. Their thin, elongated fingers moved with grace, their eyes large and reflective, and their skin shimmered faintly under the palace lights. For all their advanced technology and alien beauty, Ethan noticed that their movements, though precise, were limited by tradition. "This alliance is more than a union of two individuals," Lyra said, her voice smooth but firm. "It is the joining of our peoples, the future of Zithera. And yet," she paused, studying Ethan carefully, "you are human. I must admit I did not expect you to understand the intricacies of our culture." Ethan smiled politely. "Your Highness, I may not be Zitheran, but I have learned much in my time here, and I wish to learn more. I came to Zithera not as a conqueror, but as a partner." Lyra tilted her head, the alien equivalent of a raised eyebrow. "A partner? You speak boldly for a human." Ethan's smile did not falter. "Boldness is sometimes necessary to show respect and dedication, Your Highness." Lyra's lips curved slightly, though she tried to mask it with her regal composure. She led him through a series of hallways lined with holographic displays, showing the history of Zithera, the rise of the royal family, the great wars fought on distant moons, and the technological marvels Zitherans had achieved. Ethan studied them quietly, impressed by their achievements but mindful not to show awe. He had been trained to respect alien cultures without becoming overwhelmed by them. But inwardly, he could not help but admire the elegance of their engineering, the precision of their inventions, and the beauty of their artistry. "The humans have technology as well," he said softly, almost to himself. "Perhaps not as advanced, but in some ways more adaptable." Lyra's ears flicked, a subtle motion betraying her interest. She did not respond immediately, letting him speak more before commenting. Ethan continued, "On Earth, we have tools that allow us to survive and thrive in many environments. Sometimes we compensate for what we lack in strength with creativity and speed of thought." Lyra finally spoke, her voice low, almost curious. "Creativity, speed of thought? These are qualities we admire, though they are rare among your kind." Ethan's eyes met hers, unwavering. "I intend to prove that these qualities are not so rare, Your Highness." They arrived at a grand observation deck overlooking the city. Zitheran spires glinted like stars under the twin suns. Below, markets bustled, ships launched, and citizens moved about their daily lives, completely unaware of the tension simmering within the palace walls. "The city thrives," Ethan said, looking down. "It is beautiful, Your Highness, but even the most perfect city has weaknesses. Perhaps it is in those weaknesses that I can serve best." Lyra studied him carefully, her large eyes reflecting both the suns above and an unexpected flicker of interest. "You speak with confidence, human. Yet confidence is not always enough in the face of danger." Ethan's posture straightened. "Perhaps not, Your Highness, but experience, observation, and a willingness to act when others hesitate. These can make a difference." Lyra regarded him silently, her mind turning over his words. She had expected a human to be weak, compliant, and easily controlled. Yet here stood one who was calm, observant, and measured, qualities she admired even if she would never admit it openly. A sudden commotion broke their conversation. Outside the palace gates, a group of Zitharan guards were signaling urgently, their weapons raised. A hover vehicle carrying several high-ranking officers skidded to a halt. "Your Highness," one officer shouted. "We have received a warning. Rogue warlords are moving toward the northern districts. They intend to strike during the upcoming festival." Lyra's expression hardened instantly. "Prepare the city defenses. I will not allow chaos in my capital." Ethan's eyes narrowed slightly. "May I assist, Your Highness?" Lyra hesitated. "I suppose you may observe if you insist. But understand, human, this is not a task suited to your kind." Ethan nodded calmly. "I understand, Your Highness. But sometimes understanding is not enough. Action is required." The palace erupted into controlled chaos as guards and advisors moved to their positions. Ethan followed Lyra, silently noting the city's defense systems, the placement of troops, and the patterns of the approaching rogue forces. Though outwardly composed, he was already formulating a plan. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a violet and gold glow over the city, the festival began. Colorful lights, floating lanterns, and music filled the streets, masking the tension that simmered beneath. Citizens laughed and danced, unaware of the danger approaching. From a distance, Ethan observed the rogue warlords' forces advancing, their ships dark and menacing. Though they were smaller in number than the Zitharan military, their strategy was precise and their technology, while not as advanced as the city's, was deadly in skillful hands. Lyra stood beside him, regal and poised, yet a faint trace of worry crossed her face. "Do you truly think the humans could influence the outcome of such an event?" she asked quietly. Ethan glanced at her, a faint smile on his lips. "Strength comes in many forms, Your Highness. Sometimes the smallest spark can ignite the greatest change." Lyra's gaze lingered on him. She wanted to dismiss his words, to remind herself that humans were weak compared to Zitharans. Yet a small part of her could not ignore the calm determination in his eyes. The first signs of the rogue attack appeared as small. Fast ships darted among the festival lights, attempting to disrupt the celebrations. Guards moved quickly to intercept, but Ethan noticed weaknesses in their formation. Without hesitation, he moved into action. Using his knowledge of both human tactics and Zitharan technology, he guided the palace guards subtly, redirecting forces, creating choke points, and predicting enemy maneuvers. His suggestions, though quiet, proved effective. The rogue ships were slowed, trapped, and eventually forced to retreat. Queen Lyra watched, her eyes widening in disbelief. The human beside her, whom she had assumed was fragile, had not only assisted in the city's defense, but had done so with precision and insight far beyond what she expected. When the chaos subsided, the citizens cheered, unaware of the true danger that had passed. Lyra turned to Ethan, her expression a mixture of shock and admiration. "Human, you have contributed more than I imagined." Ethan bowed slightly, his usual calm demeanor intact. "I am here to serve, Your Highness. My strength lies not in size or power, but in action when it matters most." Lyra's mind raced. For years she had underestimated humans, believing them to be fragile, limited, and inferior. Yet here was one, not only surviving among her people but demonstrating wisdom, courage, and skill that rivaled even the best of Zitharan warriors. As the festival continued, Lyra found herself watching Ethan more closely than ever before. There was a spark of respect, a dawning realization that humans might hold strength far beyond what appearances suggested. And as the twin suns set, casting long shadows across Vorin Prime, a quiet thought formed in her mind. Perhaps the human she married was far more extraordinary than she had ever imagined. Little did she know, this was only the beginning. A greater threat was approaching, one that would test not only the limits of human ingenuity but also the bonds between species. And when that moment came, Ethan's true strength, far beyond what even Queen Lyra could predict, would be revealed. The morning after the festival, Vorin Prime buzzed with a mixture of relief and quiet tension. Citizens returned to their daily routines, laughter and music filling the streets again. But within the palace walls, the sense of vigilance remained. Queen Lyra moved through the corridors with her usual regal poise, yet her thoughts were restless. The rogue warlords had retreated, but their intent had been clear. Zithara was vulnerable. Ethan walked beside her, observing the palace with a careful eye. His training on Earth had taught him to notice patterns and weaknesses quickly. While the Zitherans relied heavily on their advanced technology and disciplined formations, he knew that every system had a flaw. Every defense had a blind spot. "Your Highness," Ethan said quietly, stopping before a holographic map of the northern districts, "I have studied the rogue warlords' movements. They are organized and patient. Retreat today does not mean defeat. They will return, perhaps more prepared and with greater numbers." Lyra's golden eyes narrowed. "And you believe we are not ready for them?" she asked. Her tone was measured but carried the weight of command. Ethan shook his head. "I believe your forces are strong, Your Highness. But even strong defenses can fail if the enemy strikes in ways you do not expect. I advise preparation beyond the standard drills." Lyra paused, turning her gaze toward him. "And what do you suggest, human? What could your kind possibly contribute to the defense of my city?" Ethan's expression remained calm. "Observation, strategy, and adaptability. Humans have a tendency to think differently. Sometimes an unexpected approach can turn the tide of battle." Lyra considered his words. She had always thought humans fragile, unfit for war in comparison to Zitherans, and yet there was something in Ethan's presence. Something that suggested he might be more than he appeared. She dismissed the thought quickly. Perhaps it was merely human arrogance. "Very well," she said, her voice firm. "You may oversee some of the training exercises. But remember, human, the protection of this city is not a game." Ethan inclined his head. "I understand, Your Highness. I do not treat it as a game. The training grounds lay outside the palace, a vast expanse of polished stone and energy barriers. Zitharan soldiers moved with precision, their elongated limbs executing synchronized maneuvers. They were disciplined, strong, and loyal, yet their tactics were predictable, structured, and methodical. Ethan observed quietly, noting the patterns and weaknesses. Then in a calm voice, he began offering suggestions. Slight adjustments in formation, new strategies for ambushes, and ways to use the terrain more effectively. At first, the soldiers were skeptical, and some commanders even bristled at a human offering guidance. But when they tested his suggestions, the results spoke for themselves. Movements became smoother, ambushes more effective, and small challenges that previously overwhelmed the soldiers were now handled with ease. Queen Lyra watched from a balcony, her expression unreadable. She could see that her human husband was not only competent, but capable of insight that surpassed many Zitharan officers, yet pride and habit made it hard for her to fully admit it. As the sun climbed higher, a message arrived via palace communication channels. It was from a scout station near the northern perimeter. "Your Highness Yedin," the voice crackled. "We have detected unusual activity. Multiple unidentified craft are gathering near the shimmering fields. It appears to be a forward reconnaissance for a larger assault." Lyra's eyes narrowed. "I feared as much. Prepare the defenses. Alert the commanders." Ethan stepped forward, his mind already working. "If I may, Your Highness, I suggest we do more than standard defenses. The rogues are patient and observant. They may anticipate conventional responses. We need to be unpredictable." Lyra turned to him, her eyes reflecting a mixture of skepticism and curiosity. "And how do you propose we achieve this, human?" Ethan paused, choosing his words carefully. "We combine your technology with adaptable tactics. We create diversions, set traps, and place forces where the enemy least expects them. Their strength lies in planning, not improvisation. If we force them to react, we gain the advantage." Lyra studied him silently. There was logic in his words, yet the thought of a human directing Zitharan defenses was almost insulting to her pride. Still, she could not ignore the possibility that he was right. "Very well," she said finally. "You may coordinate with Commander Valen, but I will be watching closely." Ethan nodded, and together they moved to the northern districts. The shimmering fields stretched for miles, a dazzling landscape of crystalline growths that refracted light like 1,000 mirrors. It was both beautiful and dangerous, as the crystalline formations could hide enemies or provide cover for an ambush. Commander Valen, a tall Zitharan with pale blue skin and multiple silver tattoos marking his rank, greeted them. "Your Highness, Captain Hayes, the scouts report no immediate threat, but we have increased patrols as requested." Ethan studied the formations and patrol patterns. "These patrols are predictable. If the rogues observe them, they can plan around our defenses. We need a pattern that changes daily, something that appears random but is strategically sound. Phelan raised an eyebrow but nodded. We will implement your plan. But understand, Captain, these are our lands, our citizens. One mistake could be disastrous. Ethan's eyes were steady. I understand. That is why we plan meticulously and adapt constantly. Anticipation alone is not enough. Action must follow quickly and decisively. Over the next several days, Ethan worked tirelessly with the Zithran forces. He devised rotating patrol routes, concealed energy traps within the crystalline formations, and set up early warning signals using both human and Zithran technology. The soldiers began to respect him, impressed by his insight and careful planning. Queen Lyra observed the progress with a mixture of astonishment and unease. She had expected humans to be weak, relying on brute strength or luck. Yet Ethan's strength was different, subtle, patient, and clever. It was the kind of strength that could not be measured by physical size or weaponry alone. One evening, as the twin suns dipped below the horizon and the city glowed in the soft violet light, Ethan approached the queen in the palace gardens. The crystalline flowers reflected the fading light, creating a kaleidoscope of colors. Your Highness, he said quietly, I fear the rogues may attempt another strike soon. My preparations will help, but I believe their assault may be larger than expected. We must be ready to act swiftly. Lyra's expression was thoughtful. You worry about what I cannot yet see, human. You are unusually perceptive. It unsettles me. Ethan smiled gently. Perception is often more valuable than strength, Your Highness. Knowing what may happen allows us to act before disaster strikes. She studied him, her golden eyes searching for any sign of arrogance or weakness. Instead, she found calm, confidence, and a quiet determination that she had not expected from a human. A small part of her, the part that could not be fully controlled by pride, felt admiration and a touch of worry. That night, the palace was quiet, but Ethan did not sleep. He reviewed the defense plans, adjusted patrol rotations, and prepared contingencies for every possible attack scenario. Humans had survived and thrived in environments far harsher than Zithra, and he intended to prove that ingenuity, quick thinking, and courage could rival the physical prowess of any species. Suddenly, a quiet alarm echoed through the palace halls. Ethan rose immediately, moving toward the source. The scout towers had reported unusual activity again, small, fast-moving ships approaching from the northern horizon. Queen Lyra, awakened by the commotion, joined him at the observation deck. It begins again, she said, her voice steady, though her eyes betrayed a hint of concern. Ethan's eyes narrowed. This time we will be ready. I have prepared for them. They will not catch us by surprise. Outside, the first glimmer of the rogue ships appeared against the night sky, their engines leaving streaks of pale light as they approached. Lyra turned to Ethan, a question in her eyes. Can a human truly protect us? Ethan met her gaze calmly. Watch closely, Your Highness. Strength comes in many forms. Sometimes the mind and courage are mightier than the strongest weapon. As the rogue ships advanced, Ethan moved to his station, coordinating forces, setting traps, and issuing precise commands. Queen Lyra watched silently, her heart pounding as the truth slowly dawned on her. This human, this husband she had once underestimated, might be the key to protecting her people. And in the quiet moments before the first battle began, she realized something else. She had never truly understood the strength of humans. The night sky over Vorin Prime was pierced by streaks of light as rogue ships darted across the northern horizon. Queen Lyra stood at the observation deck, her golden eyes focused on the approaching threat. Beside her, Ethan's calm presence contrasted sharply with the tension in the palace. Every instinct, every calculation, told him that this attack would test not only the city's defenses, but also the limits of Zithran trust. Your Highness, Ethan said quietly, I have analyzed their formations. They will attempt to infiltrate the northern gate first. If we fall into their trap, the palace itself may be vulnerable. Lyra nodded, her hands gripping the railing. And what is your plan, human? Can your kind truly match the strength of trained warriors? Ethan's eyes held steady determination. Strength is not always measured by size or weaponry. Sometimes strategy, adaptability, and courage decide the outcome. Before Lyra could respond, an urgent alert sounded from the palace communications network. Commander Valen's voice came over the channel, tense and controlled. Your Highness! There has been a breach. The northern gate defenses have been sabotaged. Lyra's heart skipped a beat. Sabotage meant betrayal. Her trusted advisors had been with her for decades. How could they turn against her? Ethan's eyes narrowed. Stay here, Your Highness. I will handle this. Lyra hesitated. Human, this is dangerous. You cannot face them alone. Ethan gave a faint smile. Sometimes the unexpected choice is the strongest one. He moved swiftly through the palace corridors, alert to every sound. The rogue forces had infiltrated deeper than expected, taking advantage of the chaos caused by the sabotage. Ethan's mind raced as he anticipated their movements, calculating ways to neutralize threats without endangering the citizens. As he reached the northern gate, he saw the first signs of betrayal. A high-ranking Zitharan officer, one of Lyra's most trusted advisors, was standing among the rogue troops. The officer's pale blue skin shimmered faintly under the dim lights, a symbol of loyalty that now hid treachery. You, Ethan shouted, stepping forward with authority. How could you betray your queen? The officer sneered. Your queen is weak, human. She does not understand the future. We will take Zithra for ourselves, and you cannot stop us. Ethan's gaze hardened. Strength is not just power. It is courage, strategy, and the will to act. And I will stop you. The rogue and traitorous officer lunged forward, weapons drawn. Ethan moved with incredible speed, dodging attacks, deflecting energy blasts, and using the environment to his advantage. Despite being human and physically smaller than his alien foes, he anticipated every move, turning the attacker's strength against them. Elsewhere, Queen Lyra's security team struggled to contain the rogue forces within the palace walls. Alarms blared, and energy barriers flickered as the invaders tried to reach the inner chambers. Yet Ethan, moving like a shadow through the chaos, disrupted their formations, cut off their reinforcements, and created safe paths for citizens to escape. The traitorous officer charged again, aiming to overwhelm Ethan with brute force. But Ethan was prepared. Using a combination of martial arts techniques and quick reflexes, he dodged the assault, grabbed a fallen weapon, and disarmed the Zitharan with precision. The officer stumbled, shocked by the human's speed and strength. Ethan's voice was calm but firm. This is your chance to surrender. Your choices have consequences. The officer hesitated, then tried to flee, only to be stopped by Ethan's quick thinking. Using a small device he had carried from Earth, Ethan created a temporary energy trap that immobilized the traitor without causing serious harm. By now, the rogue forces were scattered and confused. They had expected an easy victory, relying on brute strength and betrayal, but Ethan's adaptability and strategy had turned the tide. Using a combination of Zitharan and human technology, he disabled the invaders' ships and created barriers to prevent further reinforcements. Queen Lyra arrived at the northern gate just in time to see Ethan standing victorious over the subdued, traitorous officer. Her eyes widened in disbelief and admiration. She had underestimated him, not because he lacked strength, but because she had misunderstood the nature of human courage. You did this? She whispered, her voice filled with awe. Ethan turned to her, calm and composed. I did what was necessary, Your Highness. Strength is not only physical. Strategy, quick thinking, and the willingness to act when others hesitate are just as important. Lyra's heart raced. She had always relied on Zitharan strength, discipline, and technology to protect her city. Yet here was a human, smaller, weaker by physical standards, but capable of thinking and acting in ways that even the most trained Zitharan could not anticipate. The citizens and palace guards, once skeptical of the human, now looked at him with respect and admiration. His calm courage under pressure, combined with his ability to adapt quickly, had saved countless lives and protected the queen. Ethan did not pause to bask in the praise. He moved swiftly, coordinating the remaining defenses and ensuring the rogue forces were fully contained. Using a combination of human tactics and Zitharan technology, he anticipated every possible move the enemy might make, turning what could have been disaster into a controlled victory. As the last of the rogue forces retreated, Lyra approached him. Her usual regal composure was softened by a rare expression of humility. Captain Hayes, I misjudged you, she admitted quietly. I thought humans weak, incapable, but you have shown me the truth. Ethan inclined his head respectfully. Your Highness, I am merely human. But sometimes being human allows one to see solutions that others overlook. I fight not because I am stronger, but because I choose to act when it matters most. Lyra studied him, her admiration growing. She had married this human thinking he would be a minor participant in the alliance, a symbol of goodwill. Now she realized he was a partner in every sense, strong in mind, body, and spirit. That night, as the palace settled and alarms quieted, Lyra summoned her council. She spoke of the betrayal, the rogue attack, and Ethan's role in defending the city. Her words carried authority and sincerity, acknowledging that humans could contribute more than she had imagined. Ethan, standing quietly beside her, watched the council's reactions. Many were surprised, some reluctant to accept a human's guidance, but all could see the results. In a single night, he had shifted perceptions and earned respect from a species that once underestimated him. Later, in the quiet of the palace gardens, Lyra spoke to Ethan alone. I have always trusted my advisors, my warriors, but I did not trust you fully. Her voice was soft, almost vulnerable. I see now that I was wrong. Ethan smiled gently. Trust is earned, Your Highness, not assumed, and I am ready to continue earning it in any way I can. Lyra's expression softened, and for the first time she allowed herself a small smile. You are remarkable, Ethan. I never imagined a human could possess such strength, such courage. I am beginning to understand what humans can truly do. Ethan's calm gaze met hers. Strength comes in many forms, Your Highness, and sometimes it is the unexpected form that proves most powerful. The night air was filled with the quiet hum of the city recovering from the attack. The twin suns had long disappeared beyond the horizon, leaving the violet glow of Zithara's moons to bathe the palace gardens. Citizens went about their nightly routines, unaware of the battle that had unfolded in their northern districts and the human who had turned the tide. Ethan and Lyra walked slowly through the gardens, side by side. The palace, the city, and even the people themselves had been tested, and in that test a human had proven that courage, intelligence, and adaptability could rival the strength of any Zitharan warrior. Lyra's thoughts were a whirlwind. She had married this human thinking it would be a political gesture, a symbol of peace. Yet she now realized that Ethan Hayes was far more than a symbol. He was a protector, a strategist, and perhaps the key to Zithara's future security. And as they walked under the glowing moons, a quiet understanding passed between them. The bond forged in trust, respect, and shared danger was far stronger than either had anticipated. The rogue forces had been repelled, but this night had revealed a truth that neither could ignore. Humans, though underestimated, could be a force of extraordinary strength when courage and intelligence combined. The betrayal of one Zitharan had threatened the Queen, the city, and the future of their alliance. But in that moment, with the rogue forces defeated and the traitor captured, Ethan's true strength had been revealed, not through brute force but through quick thinking, careful planning, and unwavering courage. Queen Lyra finally understood what she had refused to see before. The human she had married was not weak. He was exceptional, and this was only the beginning. The horizon of Zithara burned with the orange glow of dawn as rogue warlord ships gathered near the northern wastelands. Queen Lyra watched from the palace balcony, tension tight in her chest. This was no longer a small infiltration. It was a full-scale assault aimed at capturing her throne and crushing her people. Ethan stood beside her, calm and steady. His human eyes scanned the battlefield, noting formations, weapon placements, and terrain features. They believe they can overwhelm us with numbers, he said softly. But they underestimate what we have prepared, and the human's adaptability in battle. Lyra's gaze shifted to him, a mix of concern and admiration in her expression. You have done well to prepare our defenses, but can a single human— Not a single human, Ethan interrupted, but a human with understanding, strategy, and allies. The rogue warlord's fleet descended, their ships cutting through the morning mist. They were heavily armed, more than had ever been seen in Zitharan territory. Ground forces spread out, armored and ready, their weapons glowing with lethal energy. Chaos threatened to erupt, yet Ethan remained composed. He turned to Queen Lyra. We must control their perception, make them believe they are stronger than they are. We will force them into predictable patterns, then strike where they least expect. Lyra nodded, following his orders as he began coordinating both human and Zitharan forces. The palace gates opened strategically, funneling enemy troops into traps. Hidden energy nets concealed among crystalline formations shimmered, ready to immobilize large groups at the right moment. As the first wave of warlord troops charged, Ethan moved swiftly among the soldiers, directing movements, setting ambush points, and using every environmental advantage. His size and appearance seemed fragile to the Zitharan eyes around him, yet his presence commanded respect. He darted between attackers, deflecting strikes, using momentum against his enemies and creating openings for the Zitharan forces to act. The rogue warlords quickly realized something was wrong. Their enemies were behaving unpredictably, dodging attacks and countering their strategies in ways they hadn't anticipated. Ethan's trap struck with precision. Energy nets immobilized squads, concealed projectiles disrupted formations, and clever use of terrain forced enemies into disadvantageous positions. Queen Lyra, observing the battle unfold, felt a growing shock. "He is everywhere at once," she murmured. "How can one human coordinate so many actions with such speed and precision?" Ethan's strategy wasn't only about strength, it was about intelligence and anticipation. He predicted enemy movements, calculated optimal counterattacks, and guided his allies with clear commands. Zitharan warriors who had once doubted him now followed his direction without hesitation. The rogue warlords regrouped, attempting to overpower Ethan directly. They sent their strongest champions, hulking Zitharan-like creatures enhanced with stolen technology, to confront him. But Ethan's human agility and training allowed him to evade blows, disarm attackers, and turn their own strength against them. Queen Lyra watched, wide-eyed, as Ethan, physically smaller than his foes, outmaneuvered them repeatedly. His strikes were calculated, his defenses precise, and his courage unshakable. The rogue forces, expecting easy victories, were now on the defensive. One of the warlords attempted to strike from above, leaping from a hovering platform with energy blades. Ethan anticipated the move, using a combination of timing and momentum to redirect the attacker into a containment trap. Lyra gasped. "No human should be capable of this," she whispered. Ethan did not stop. He moved deeper into the battlefield, directing defenses, evacuating civilians, and neutralizing threats. His hybrid tactics, Earth ingenuity combined, with Zitharan technology, were turning what should have been a massacre into a controlled victory. The rogue forces, frustrated and disoriented, began retreating in small groups. Ethan used the environment to corner them, forcing surrender where possible and minimizing casualties. Even the most ruthless warlords could not adapt quickly enough to his unconventional strategies. Finally, the leader of the rogue warlords, a massive, imposing figure, emerged. His voice boomed across the battlefield. "You, human, you dare challenge me?" Ethan faced him calmly. "I am not daring anything. I am defending what is rightfully protected. Your strength does not intimidate me because strength alone is not enough." The warlord charged with brute force, swinging enormous weapons. Ethan dodged, rolled, and used his attacker's momentum against him, sending him crashing into a containment barrier. Every move Ethan made was precise, efficient, and intelligent. The warlord struggled to rise, realizing that his physical power alone was insufficient against a human who thought faster, acted faster, and anticipated every move. Queen Lyra's shock had now turned into admiration. She had underestimated humans entirely. This one human had outsmarted, outmaneuvered, and outlasted forces that should have overwhelmed him. And in doing so, he had saved her city. The rogue warlord, finally captured and immobilized, glared at Ethan. "Impossible. A human, stronger than we thought." Ethan's calm voice responded. "Strength is more than physical. Intelligence, courage, and adaptability make humans capable of more than appearances suggest." With the battle concluded, the city's defenses intact and the rogue warlords defeated, the citizens of Vorin Prime emerged cautiously from their shelters. They had witnessed the extraordinary, the human who had turned the tide, protected the queen, and saved countless lives. Queen Lyra approached Ethan as the dust settled. Her voice, though soft, carried deep respect. "Ethan, You have shown me a strength I never expected. I underestimated humans, and I see now how wrong I was. Ethan bowed respectfully. Your Highness, I am glad to serve. But strength alone is meaningless without purpose. It is courage, intelligence, and dedication that protect what we value most. Lyra's eyes glistened with newfound understanding. You are more than a partner in alliance, Ethan. You are a true protector of Zithera. And as the twin moons rose above the city, reflecting light across the crystalline spires, Ethan stood beside the Queen, not as a human outsider but as a hero who had proven the remarkable potential of his species. The city of Vorin Prime slowly returned to normal. Streets once filled with tension now buzzed with cautious optimism. Citizens shared stories of the night they had survived a full-scale attack, but the true hero remained quiet, standing beside Queen Lyra as she addressed her people. We have faced threats before. Lyra's voice echoed across the palace balcony, calm yet commanding. But never have we faced such cunning and determination. Thanks to the courage and intelligence of one human, Captain Ethan Hayes, we have endured and prevailed. The crowd erupted into cheers. Many had doubted humans before, seeing them as fragile and unworthy of respect. Now they were forced to reconsider. Humans were capable of bravery, strategy, and remarkable strength, qualities that could match and sometimes surpass Zitheran skill. Ethan stood beside the Queen, his expression humble. He accepted the gratitude with calm composure, knowing that the recognition was not for pride but for the shared effort and the lives saved. Lyra turned to him afterward. You have not only defended the city but changed the way my people view your kind. Humans are more than we believed. You have opened a new path for our alliance. Ethan smiled gently. Respect is earned, Your Highness, and courage can be found in any species willing to act for what is right. Over the following days, the captured rogue warlords and traitorous advisors were dealt with fairly, ensuring justice while minimizing further conflict. Zitheran and human forces worked together to rebuild the northern districts, repair damaged structures, and strengthen defenses. Citizens began to approach Ethan, not just as a foreign guest or ambassador, but as a symbol of courage and ingenuity. Children listened eagerly to his stories of Earth, his training, and his quick thinking during the battle. Even seasoned Zitheran officers sought his guidance, eager to learn the human methods that had turned the tide of battle. Queen Lyra observed these interactions quietly, her respect deepening. She had once seen humans as fragile, unpredictable, and weak. Now she understood that Ethan's strength was multifaceted: intelligence, courage, adaptability, and unwavering dedication. These qualities had changed the course of history on Zithera. One evening, as the twin moons reflected across the palace gardens, Lyra joined Ethan in a quiet moment. I have underestimated your kind for far too long, she admitted softly. Your strength, your courage, it has opened my eyes. Ethan's gaze met hers, calm and reassuring. Humans are capable of extraordinary things when they act with purpose and resolve. I hope my actions have earned not only your trust but your respect. Lyra smiled, a rare warmth in her eyes. More than that. You have earned a place in Zithera's history and in my life. Together we will build a stronger future for both our peoples. The alliance between humans and Zitherans entered a new era. Shared technology, strategies, and knowledge allowed both species to thrive. Humans contributed ingenuity and adaptability, while Zitherans offered advanced technology and disciplined structure. The city grew stronger, more resilient, and more united than ever before. Ethan continued to train and advise Zitheran forces, blending human tactics with alien technology. Queen Lyra stood at his side, not just as a partner in marriage, but as a leader who understood the value of courage and intelligence in any form. Months passed, and peace settled across Vorin Prime. Yet the memory of the rogue warlord's attack remained a reminder. Vigilance, courage, and cooperation were key to survival. Citizens often told stories of the human who had saved the Queen, his bravery and cleverness inspiring generations. One evening, as the palace glowed softly under the twin moons, Ethan and Lyra walked along the crystalline terraces. The city sparkled below, alive with hope and life. You have changed my perspective entirely, Lyra said, her voice quiet but sincere. Humans are not weak, they are extraordinary. Ethan nodded, his expression gentle. Strength is more than physical, Your Highness. It is found in courage, in action, and in the determination to protect those we care for. Lyra smiled, a soft warmth in her eyes. Then perhaps it is time our people see humans as allies, not outsiders. And you, Ethan Hayes, will be the example they follow. Together they looked toward the horizon, twin moons casting light across the city. The past battles were behind them, but the future promised cooperation, understanding, and strength. A new era had begun, not just for humans and Zitherans, but for the galaxy where courage, intelligence, and determination could change the fate of worlds. And at the heart of it all stood a human, a man who had shown that real strength comes not just from muscle or technology, but from the courage to act, the intelligence to adapt, and the unwavering will to protect those who cannot protect themselves. In that moment, Queen Lyra realized that her human husband had proven something greater than anyone had imagined. Humans, when united with purpose and bravery, could shine brighter than even the most advanced alien warriors. The story of Ethan Hayes would be told for generations, an enduring reminder of the extraordinary potential of humanity.